Hi, I'm Dawn. Welcome to my channel. In case you're new here, you are very, very welcome. I started this channel back last year in 2022 when my husband and I had gotten back from the Eastern European country of Georgia after everything was happening with Russia and Ukraine. You may not even know Georgia, you may not have ever heard of it, but it is a former Soviet Union country as well. And it is attached to the bottom part of Russia, right there on the Black Sea too. And actually, Russia occupies two parts of Georgia right now in 2023. It has for years, the same way that it was with Ukraine. And so my husband and I made the decision to come back home, and that's where we are in our cabin in the mountains of Colorado. But when we got back, we just felt such alarm and such, we have to get this done. We have to learn how to do this. We have to build up this. We have to, and all the time we were just on constant alert, and it was exhausting. And so I felt the Lord move on me to start this channel as a way to be on a journey to unplug just for a few minutes, not to ignore what's going on, not to act like it's not there, but to remember that God is still good. And in Jesus, we can still have peace no matter what craziness is going on around us. So that's what these videos are for. We do things like money saving tips. I grew up around the Amish in Arthur, Illinois, and they certainly have a lot of ways you can save money. I have some videos that I did about them, and I can link those down below. We do gardening tips that you can do from anywhere, such as in an apartment. Even if you don't have a balcony, you can do some of these. Some of the tips that we do and some of the gardening things we do, you really should have outside space, but not all of them. And so you can grow your own herbs, you can grow microgreens, you can grow from food scraps, all kinds of things, no matter what kind of space you have, a tiny home or an apartment, a big homestead. So we do those kind of fun things. How-to videos like sewing and just really fun ideas of management and savings tips and how to organize your space, things like that, to help us unplug together and relax for a few minutes in the day. So today, let's get started on this video. When COVID hit, a lot of people found themselves working from home who'd never done remote work before. I've done remote work for over a decade, and one thing that I have learned is you have to take care of yourself. You have to make sure that you are implementing some healthy practices and watching out for yourself, because you're not full of an office full of people. You're not taking breaks with other people. You're not doing those kind of things. So here are 5 tips plus a little bonus at the end of ways that I have found to really help keep myself healthy and keep myself on track. Now, the first one is respect your time. And this was something that a supervisor of mine told me years and years ago. And he said, if you do not respect your time, no one else will either. So what he was talking about was when it is break time, you need to go take your break. Don't work through your break because, well, I've got to get this one more email. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. If you were sitting at home and you heard something crash through your window, it wouldn't matter what you're doing. You would be rushing over there to find out what's going on. And you need to do the same thing with your breaks and your lunch time. You need to protect that time and take it. If that means setting an alarm on your phone, having a set time every single day that you get up and you take that break, one wonderful way to help the temptation that a lot of people do is, okay, I'm taking a break from work for a minute, so now I'm going to look on my phone. I'm going to check my emails. Well, you're still plugged in. You're still doing that. You're not giving yourself that break. You're not giving yourself that rest that you need. So one way that I have found is taking a quick walk. Now, don't tune me out if you're not a walker. I wasn't either. But what I realized if I have a 15-minute break, I can set my phone alarm for either 7.5 minutes if I want to do the whole thing, or even for 5 minutes so that I have time to get back to my computer and I'm not taking more than the 15 minutes. But if I set my alarm for 5 minutes and I go start walking, that's 5 minutes one direction. Anybody can do that. And then when that alarm goes off, you just walk back the same way you went. You just did a 10-minute walk. And you can do that on your breaks, and you get in 2 or 3 of those, and you've done 30 minutes in a day, and you don't even realize you've done it. So that is a super great way to do that. Give yourself that rest, help your body to just relax a few minutes and unplug from the electronics. And then the same thing with that. With your lunches, avoid that temptation to, oh, I've got to get all this, I got to get these errands done, so I got to do this, I got to do that. Take your lunchtime to allow your body to actually eat your food and enjoy what you're eating and be aware of what you're eating, and you'll be surprised how much better you feel. And it even helps with your digestion and all of that. So definitely use that lunchtime that you have for eating lunch. And that ties right into tip number 2. Tip number 2, don't mindlessly eat at your computer throughout the day. Don't take your break time or other things to get other stuff done, and then because you're starving hungry, you sit there and you eat during the day instead of what you're supposed to be doing. You're not paying attention to what you're eating. You're not usually eating as good a food. You'll just grab some snacks or whatever, and it's not nearly as healthy for your body to do that. So avoid that temptation of just mindlessly eating something while you're working, and your body doesn't even really realize that it's eating anything. So that is tip number 2. On to number 3. And as always, sharing scriptures of hope and remembrance that the Lord is with us. Today in Psalm 127:2, the Complete Jewish Bible, there at the top it says, "In vain do you get up early and put off going to bed, working hard to earn a living, for he provides for his beloved, even when they sleep." And then in the New Testament, in Philippians 4:19 in the NIV, it reminds us, "And my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of his glory in Christ Jesus." So tip number 3, it stays right along with you respecting your own time and making sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you can be the best employee that you can possibly be, and just be connected with your friends and everything too, so you're not so exhaustedly tired when you get off, and it helps your body. And that tip is take 5-minute breaks every hour. Now that doesn't mean leaving your desk. You don't have to do that, but you need to get up. You need to not sit there for hours and hours and hours. And a lot of people who have worked remote or worked at their computer, even at their desk in an office, know that this happens so many times, that you're sitting there, you're working on a project, and the next thing you know, you've been sitting there for 2.5 hours. So set an alarm on your clock or on your phone if you need to. Whatever you need to do, just get up once an hour. And when you're doing that, stretch a little bit, bend over a little bit, do some hand exercises a little bit, stretch out your hands. It only takes a minute. And if you do that throughout the day, that will give your body that break. Hopefully you're getting up other times and stretching and things a little bit too, but at least then you have that every single hour. You've got that going on. And then the next tip, number 4, is something we also forget, and that is hydrate. You need to stay hydrated, and this is an easy one to forget. You get done with your day and you realize you've had 1 cup of coffee in the morning on the way to sign into your computer, and that's it. That is so unhealthy for us. You can research it, you can look it up. Hydration is so very important. So one thing that you can tie into those 5-minute breaks that I was just talking about, you can have that be the time that you get a small glass of water. Obviously, you're not going to drink a giant thing of water every hour, but you can get a small glass of water and say, okay, every time I take my 5-minute break, I'm going to have a glass of water and I'm going to drink that. Or whatever, decaf tea or something. Not caffeinated drinks, because even though they're wonderful, they do dehydrate you more, so they're not so helpful for that hydration. But figure out what you want to use to keep your hydration going and have that ready. And every time you take that break once an hour, also hydrate your body, and you'll be surprised how much better you feel when you do that. Okay, number 5, and then we'll get to the bonus in a minute. Number 5 is to quit well. And this one, it can be really, really difficult when you have your computer, whether you have a tiny home and you've got a computer over to the side, or you've got an actual office set up for your computer, or however your situation works, it can be really difficult when it is sitting there and maybe it's quitting time, it's time to be done, but you're just not quite done yet. Or your mind just keeps going, especially for those ADHDs among us that just hyper focus and you can focus on something for hours and hours and not even realize it. It is really difficult sometimes when it comes time to shut down. Well, I'll just work another 15 minutes. I'll just work another 20 minutes. Or you go grab something in the kitchen, you come right back. So one way that you can unplug from work so that you'll be present for your family, you'll be present for yourself, you can go on and do other projects and be fully there and fully focused on those, not halfway thinking about work projects. Have some activity that you do on a regular basis when it is quitting time. Whether that is just folding your laptop over, and that signifies to your brain, okay, it's time to quit work. Or maybe it's even covering your laptop, especially if you don't have an office. If you have an office, you can shut the office door, and so you know that is just, it's done. But if maybe you use the office for a lot of different things, and so you can't do that, find a way to unplug for your brain. Maybe have an activity like, that is when I'm going to go check the mail. That as soon as I get done with work, I get up and I check the mail. And that will get you in a routine so that your brain knows, okay, that's it. For me, I go and check on my chickens and see if they have any eggs and that kind of thing. So that really helps me. All right, it's the end of the day. It's time to quit. It's time to put work away for another day. The bonus tip would be, if you can get yourself a sit-stand desk. And I know people probably think, oh my goodness, hundreds of dollars, and instantly that couldn't be the case. It certainly can. You can spend a lot of money on one of those. But when I was working up in Alaska, we found one, and it was just on Amazon, that went on top of any regular table or any regular desk you were using, but it was big enough that it went up and down, and it could have your monitors, whatever you needed on there, so that you can stand up. And that can be so helpful. You can stand up for 20 minutes a day and stretch your legs, but you can still be working while you're standing. That certainly is helpful. Now, it's a bonus because it's not for everybody. Some people don't have a space where that would work. My current desk up here, that wouldn't work because of this slanted ceiling. So it wouldn't work in this spot. We have another spot in the house where it would, but not up here. Or maybe it is cost prohibitive. I was looking last night just to see before I made this video, and those ones I was talking about, it looks like they're about $140 now for that kind. And of course, then they do have the more expensive ones that are the whole desk that goes up and down. So you can do that too. Some people just don't have the space, whether it's a slanted ceiling or not. Maybe you're in a tiny home, or maybe you're mobile. A lot of people that work remote are mobile, and so their space for working is not conducive to having something like that. So it's certainly not something everybody can do, but it is something that some of us can do, and I really encourage you to do that. When I was using that when I was working in Alaska, it was so helpful to be able to stand up. And I would just stand up and work until I got tired, and it usually was about 20 minutes or so, and then I'd sit down for a little while, and then after a while I'd stand back up again, and it certainly helped a lot. So that is something to think about too. Okay. That is it for today's tips for healthy home remote work. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If so, please consider hitting the like button. If you have other tips for people, comment down below and tell them what you have found works really well for you with your remote work, because I'm sure we would all love to learn from each other. Thanks so much. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.